In this video, we're going to be breaking down exactly how to build a multi-step sales funnel using Claude Code. We're going to be vibe coding this whole thing because in the past, this would have taken me days, and I have literally never been so excited to actually design a sales funnel before. Now, this is a live client. This is my partner's business, and so we need to make this epic. I'm going to be breaking down every single step of the way and ultimately getting it to a point where we can host it on GHL. Because one of the biggest problems when it comes to vibe coding is you can host it on Cloudflare, you can host it on GoDaddy, you can host on Vercel, you can host on Netlify. But the problem with those things are they don't have the analytics and the data that ultimately GHL does. So what we really need to be tracking, and the reason we're doing it this way, is we need to know how many people are opting into the landing page. All right, how many views does the page get? How many people are actually dropping their emails in and moving into the next step, which is the thank you page and the webinar registration. We need to know exactly how many people are registering for that webinar, and then ultimately how many people are landing on the sales page and actually converting. And so the good thing about hosting on GHL and building with Claude Code is that this is going to give us a huge amount of data as to where the holes are in this funnel, but hopefully that won't necessarily be the case. But also, we want it to be really easy to send leads to email lists, etc., so we can start nurturing them and warming them up for the purchase and also getting them ready for the webinar itself. So buckle up, there's going to be a wild ride. I'm taking you through step by step, every single step of the way on how to vibe code a real sales funnel, host it, and actually start making money. So let's get this show on the road. So the job at hand is quite a big one. All right, so we have to design 3 pages. We also need the copy for all of those pages, right? So we need the writing, we need the words, and we also need the inspiration, the brand guidelines, etc. So we need a great brief, right? And remember this, that any project is always as good as the brief. And that's something I learned in my creative agency days. And it is exactly the same when we're vibe coding. So we need to make sure our brief is as solid as possible for Claude so it can go ahead and get as close to a one-shot kill as possible for each of these pages. So what I've been doing before I started this video was I went and collected as much data as I possibly can. So we've got Danielle's style guide, her brand guidelines, exactly what her brand looks like. We've chatted to her. We've broke down things that she likes. We've got some style references of landing pages that she really likes. So these are going to save us a huge amount of time. But first things first, we're going to set up our Claude project in the best way possible. All right, so here we are inside Claude. We've got Claude Code set up. I'm using Claude's desktop app. And the first thing that we want to do is just go ahead and create our project file in our documents. Now you can save this anywhere you want. All right, so open that inside Claude Code, and now we are ready to set the brief. So the first thing that you've got to do whenever you open up Claude Code is set the Claude.md file. Now the Claude.md file is essentially a battle plan and the brief for Claude, so it can always refer back to this as the project moves on and it doesn't lose track of what it's doing. This is very, very important in regards to storing things like the brand look and feel, the references, but ultimately what is the main goal of what we're doing here. And this is going to ensure your projects are far more successful. So what I like to do at this stage is actually just speak to Claude, maybe for a minute, 2 minutes, and I'm going to give it a big fat juicy brief, and it's going to go ahead and turn that into a Claude.md file itself. Now, one thing that is very important to understand when you are doing this brief, because we know that this is going to be hosted on GoHighLevel, we need to tell it that, because GoHighLevel's code functionality is not that great, and we're going to be using custom code blocks inside GHL. So we need to make sure that the code is written for GHL specifically. We can't have any fancy coding languages because frankly, it's just going to be a nightmare having to translate that over into GHL at the end of this project. So let's make sure we set the tone from the outset. All right, so the project we're going to work on now is a multi-step sales funnel for one of my clients. We essentially need to build 3 main pages. We need a opt-in page, which will host their lead magnet. We need a thank you page, which will essentially be the webinar registration page. And then finally, the third page is going to be a sales page, which sells her course. And her course is called the Instagram Presence 2.0. She's essentially selling access to her course and her community as well. I want you to create a Claude.md file that we can use throughout this project. Inside of it, I want you to reference specifically a brand.md file, which I'll get you to create after this. I'll give you access to her brand guidelines, style references, websites that we like, and also I will give you the copywriting for each of the pages. The way that I want to design this is one page at a time. Once we are happy and we've completed the single page, then we can move on to the next one. A very important thing to understand is that these landing pages are going to be hosted on GoHighLevel. That means the code needs to be written specifically so we can drop the various sections into GoHighLevel section by section using custom code blocks inside GHL. So this is typically HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So please make sure you do a decent amount of research on how GHL treats custom code so that we are designing purpose-built for that outcome. So let's spend some time in plan mode now and discuss everything you need to create a solid Claude.md file. Let's go. Okay, so I'm just going to go into plan mode, and that is my initial brief. Let's rock. All right, so Claude Code is just going to ask us a few questions now to help us refine the brief even further. So it's already asked us things like how are we going to be providing the brand guidelines, and I've just told it. So you can see here that the project setup is complete. It's created the Claude.md file. So that's the full project brief, the GHL constraints, funnel structure, code standards, etc. And then it's also created a brand.md file where we're going to basically be uploading the brand guidelines, etc. And it's also installed the various skills, the front-end designer skill, landing page mastery skill, and the page CRO skill. I will have these in the description of the video so you can just download them and add them to your project yourself. Okay, so we basically got Claude Code to create our Claude.md file. Now we're going to start a new chat to avoid that whole conversation getting compacted and it losing context. So one thing you got to realize is that if you go down in one chat in Claude Code for too long, it will reach its limit of how long the conversation can be. So all you got to do is just go to start a new chat, make sure the folder is selected, and then we can just continue the process from there. So the last thing it asked me to do was to give it the brand guidelines and the style references. So we'll go ahead and just start that in a new chat now. So the reason we're able to do this in a new chat is Claude will be able to go have a look at the Claude.md file and have all of the context that we basically set up for it. And that's why a Claude.md file is so important. All right, so you can see here that it is now updating the brand.md file because it knows exactly what I'm actually talking about, even though I've created a new chat. All right, so it's taken the brand style guide, it's updated the brand.md. You can see it's got our colors here, it's got the different fonts and everything like that. So now it's asking for the design references. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give the design references and images to Claude Code. So Danielle has specifically said to me that she really likes this as an example design and layout, which I think is really clean. She's done a really fantastic job here. All right, so I'm just going to go and give Claude this URL. Hey Claude, so specifically one of the references that Danielle said she likes is this website. And I'm also going to attach some images of her carousels and her design style, so ultimately we can make our own unique version of this. Okay, so I'm on Danielle's profile right now, and she has a really unique sort of style. She likes this sort of approach as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and screenshot these. And instead of dropping them into the chat, I'm just going to go create a folder inside of the folder we're working in saying design references. I'm going to drop all of the screenshots into this. All right, and then I take design references and I will copy the path name and I'll say extra design references of her social media pages are here as well. All right, so that has taken a little bit of a while. We've got our Claude.md file, we've got our brand.md, we've also got all of our design references set up for this entire project. Now we are ready for the fun stuff. Okay, so before we actually go out and start designing, we ultimately need to feed Claude Code with the copywriting for the first page. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and go to our Copy Coach web app, which we've basically designed. And this is ultimately going to allow us to create content and copywriting that gives us an incredibly tailored and targeted set of words that ultimately will fill the landing page in the best way possible. So I'm going to go through this process. I'm going to go write the copy using our persuasive process. And I'm going to do that for every single landing page. All right, so I'm going to do that for the opt-in page, the webinar registration page, and the sales page. Now, this tool is available for you inside of our school community. So if you want to get access to this and start writing highly persuasive copy, jump right in. Link is in the description below. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I now have two options. I can go for a quick start, or I can update a brand playbook. Now, the brand playbook is essentially a master prompt that all of the people in our community will have because they've gone through our research and target audience course, which gives them a specific brand playbook that they can use across any AI platform. But for now, because we're creating a custom job, I want to go through quick start and I want to make sure that I have full control over the copy that's being created. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this out and give the copy coach specific information around this offer. So product name, what it is, what's the price point, who's the audience, a few different pain things, what's the identity transformation before and after, what are the benefits, and the proof, social proof, urgency, risk reversal, and guarantee. And again, this is going to help us create incredibly powerful sales copy. So I'm going to fill this out now and move into the next step so we can start generating the copy. So I've filled out everything for Danielle's offer. So let's go ahead and generate the copy. All right, so the copy coach is now going to start creating all of the copy that we need for this page. So copy has now been created. So now what we can do is just go section by section down the 12-step sales letter process and just adjust and tweak until we're happy. And we can also, add some AI refinement into it. So adding more urgency, etc., etc. But what we got here so far is pretty damn good. We've got a lot of copy. So you can see here in the copy coach, we've also got our full copy preview. So anything that we edit up here will be updated here. And then all we'll have to do is just copy that and then move over into Claude once we're ready. But now, as with any copywriting process, it's really important that you actually inject some of the human into it now and your own intuition and taste. Ultimately, 90% of the work has now been done from a copywriting standpoint for the sales page. All right, so I'm going to go in, refine some of this, and then we're going to go over into Claude and we're going to see what it cooks up for us. I've just gone through each section and I've tweaked it, tweaked each section, so we're ultimately happy with it. So you can see here we've got a full copy preview now of all of the different copy for the different sections. Now, specifically what I did as well was I shared it with Danielle. Now, this is really, really important. If you're designing this for other clients, make sure you get the copy signed off before you ultimately start designing. All right, so we've shown it. She's happy with the tone of voice and it's matching. There was quite a bit of tweaking that ultimately needed to go into this, because she's got a very, very specific brand tone of voice. So now we're on to the main event. We're going to be designing the actual sales page for the actual offer. Now, this is really the showpiece in what we're doing here, and this needs to be on point. And so typically what we like to do at this phase is get buy-in from the client before we ultimately start coding, all right? Because this is going to save you a load of time. If you go in and just start coding and then you present it to the client and then they don't like it, ultimately you've just wasted hours and hours of your life. All right, so what we typically do, and this is what I used to do when I worked at the web design agency in London, was I would do front-end design mockups in Photoshop, crazy. We would take it to the client, they would review it, they would sign off, and then we would pass it on to the development team who would go out and actually start coding manually. Can you believe it? So what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool called variant.com, which is a fantastic tool, which ultimately allows you to do a bunch of design mockups very, very quickly based on any style references you have. So what I'm going to do is just go into Variant, and I'm first going to go onto Danielle's Instagram page because she has specifically said she really likes this new style that she's created. Of her carousels, right? So this was one of her design references for me. She was like, okay, if you can make the page look like this, that would be fantastic, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and take some of these images, grab them, and I'm gonna drop them into Variant, and I'm gonna take the copy from the different sections that we've got from our Brave Brand Copy Coach, and I'm going to drop them into variant one at a time, and we're going to design some key sections of the page and then pass them over to Danny for approval, and then we're going to move into coding. All right, so I've added a reference image here to variant. I'm just going to tell it what I want it to do now. Can you create a couple of hero section mockups and variant designs for a sales page we're creating for this client in the style of the reference I've given you now? Please explore 3 main variants which are all different from each other. And here's a bit of design reference and style based on what we're trying to achieve with the brand. All right, so you can see here, variant has gone out and actually created a few variants. So you can see if you click into one of these, we've actually got 3 variants laid out just like this. All right, so initially these are kind of cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and push this a little bit, and I'm going to say I'm going to choose this one, and I'm just going to give it the copy for the headline section. All right, so let's go variant, explore. Can you tweak these variants by including the actual copy for the sales page for each, for all 3 of them? And just paste that in there and then hit go. All right, so you can see the prompt has actually populated there. All right, so you can see all of that's now starting to generate here. Now, just from a design iteration standpoint, I mean, this is just ridiculous in regards to saving time. All right, this is vibe designing in action, my friend. All right, so you can see I've got a bunch of different variations laid out here. And so all I'm gonna do now is just go ahead and just start exploring more. All right, so we've got some of these variants created. So there's a few panels that I like on this. I kind of like this hero, it's nice and clean. This is also quite a nice section, and this is also cool. So it's using Danielle's colors really well, which I think is pretty good just in regards to some design references. And so what you can also do in variant, which is quite cool, is you can hit this little icon up here. And if I like something on this, for example, boom, I'm going to grab it, and then I'm going to drop it onto this. All right. And that should now take the style of this and apply it to this, and it's going to generate a few more variants. So I'm just going to go back and forth, play around with a few variants. Once I'm happy, I've got enough great reference sections, I can put them in a document, send them to Danny, and just see what she likes. And ultimately, that's just a really nice creative iteration process. Now, obviously, if you're doing this for yourself, you can just go back and forth as many times as you want until you're happy with the style, and then we can move over into Claude Code and actually start building this thing out. All right, guys, so we've actually just spoken to Danielle, and we've gotten some feedback on the initial mockups. And so I've gone into Variant, and I've whittled it down to the following versions that she likes. So we're going to be taking bits and pieces. We're going to be taking stuff from here, we're going to be taking stuff from here, and then we're going to be combining it with this layout over here so it matches her look and feel on her Instagram, which is a very unique style. I don't see any templates like that on the internet, most specifically on GHL. And that's the problem with a lot of these AI slop websites, is they all look and sound the fucking same. All right, so let's now start transferring this over into the sales page. So when you go here to export, you can actually just click open in and then go Claude Code. Okay, so I'm in Claude Code. I'm going to go to plan mode, and I'm going to tell it, hey Claude, so we need to design Danny's sales page now. I've got a few mockup variants inside variant.com that I use to get sign off on the look and feel of the hero section and a few styling options for some panels. I'm going to give you the code one by one. First, I'm going to give you the hero section. I want you to internalize it to understand the design style. And just beware, in the first code that I'm going to send you, there's 3 variations. We want the top variation with the brown background and the different cutout images. Once you've got a good picture on that, I'll give you a couple of screenshots for what I want the columns underneath it to look like. Once we are done, I will then give you the copy for the landing page for you to go out and then design it. All right, let me know if you need anything else. Okay, and so just paste the code there and let's go. All right, so the first part of the plan is complete. We've got variant 1. Claude understands that that's the one we want to go for, which is variant 1. It understands the type, etc., etc. And now it wants the column screenshots of the other designs that we liked. Okay, so I'm going to go here to these sections. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy the code once again. All right, so just feeding that Claude Code with extra context so the plan is awesome and we can just get as close to a one shot as possible. What I've found to be really, really useful is rather than just trying to push with Claude Code and getting it to just code all the time, is anytime you want to make wholesale changes is always just go back to planning. And specifically, that's really helped me just avoid miscommunication. So I'm going to go to Copy Coach and I've got all of our copy laid out here. I'm just going to go and copy the whole thing and say, here is the copy. All right, Claude, here is the copy. Go ahead and start designing the landing page. All right, so copy is in, full context is in, the plan is ready, and now Claude can actually go out of plan mode and start building this thing. So it should do that automatically. But once we've got a solid sales page locked and loaded, then we can move into the webinar page and the opt-in page as well. So I think we're in a good place. Let's see what Claude comes back with. Hopefully it is a banger and as close to a one-shot kill as possible. So while Claude Code is working, we're going to take that nice cutout feature that Danielle really likes from her Instagram posts, and we're going to pop that into Figma, crop out the images, and just so we can drop them into Claude Code easily once that design is completed. Now, Danielle has created all of those mockups inside of Canva, and I despise Canva. So we're going to take them out. We've exported them as PNGs. We're going to drop them into Figma and we're going to crop them up and make them look good and useful for this actual website. So you can see here, we've got all our little cutouts here and everything. So I'm just going to make sure these are sized correctly because, you know, when we put them onto the website, we don't want the bounding boxes to take up too much space. So it's pretty simple. Just going to go resize these and I'll export them as transparent PNGs and then we'll be able to drop them into Claude Code when we are ready. All right, so let's do that now. So those are all exported. What we're going to do now is drop all of those images into tiny PNG so we can just compress them and that they're not going to be taking up too much space. So if anything's like over 2 MB, like, you know, these are kind of bulky files and those will affect how well our site loads. So I'm just going to go to tiny PNG and just drop all of these in there. All right, so we've got all of our images compressing. I will then be able to check in on Claude Code and drop these straight into the design. So let's go check on Claude Code, see how that sales page is cooking. All right, guys, so we've got our first design of the sales page back, and I think we're in a good place, right? So the template is basically created. You can see here how it's got the different image placeholders for us to drop in. We've still got watch trailer here, which we'll need to fix. And then the type goes down, the different sections are designed. Now, there's a lot that can be done here to make this look better. All right, so we're gonna have to go through this and ultimately just make it look a little bit better, but the structure is there. You know, we've got our value stack, we've got the investment, we've also got the promise, we've got the about section. So what I'm going to do now is work my way down the sales page and ultimately just drop in images and then redesign any sections that I think need redesigning. So specifically, you know, this section, I don't really like this way it's treated these columns, like this side panel blue bar, like it's very AI. And I've noticed that AI typically likes to do stuff like that. So what we're going to do, any sections that need redesigning, I'm going to just zoom out a little bit so I can see the full thing. I'm going to screenshot it. And I'm going to take it to variant. And I'm going to drop it in. And I'm going to say, all right, can you explore some layout variations for this design, please? Okay, and so I'm going to go back and forth between variant, giving it the reference that I wanted to redesign, and that's going to allow us to iterate visually and ensure we're happy. Because if we just do that iteration through Claude Code, honestly, it takes a little bit more time. and it might be coding things that you don't want it to do. So variant is great just for getting variants, exactly what it sort of says on the tin. And I can go back and forth until every single section is looking awesome. So now I'm just going to go through, work my way through the sales page and just make sure each section is on point, matching those initial design references that Danielle said she liked. All right, I'm going to get to it. Once that's done, I'll show you what the design looks like, and then we'll move on to the other pages. All right, guys, so for sections like this, all right, so where it's got the classic AI slop colored thing like this, all I'm gonna do, rather than going to variant, like I can go to variant, but ultimately, these are just quick changes that Claude Code can fix. So in this instance, I'm just gonna go, for this section specifically, the columns look a little bit bland. Can you find a more elegant solution, potentially 2 columns by 2 rows as squares, and then maybe the main text for the actual panels should be the body text or the sans serif text, because this is getting a little bit clunky with all of the serif based fonts. So what I've found is that whenever it designs something and you're not happy with the changes, saying things to Claude Code like, okay, based on everything you know now, what is the most elegant solution? So that's typically been a really nice way to ultimately push the design a bit more. All right, so you can see here now with a little bit of tweaking, we've ultimately got a little bit of a better section here, which has much more breathing room. And it's just better than the standard AI slop that came about. Now that just required a little bit of prompting with Claude, but ultimately these sections are looking banging now. And so we're just gonna go ahead and do that for the rest of these, because this is, again, staggered quite rhythmically. And ultimately, images are always gonna be your friend. So what I'm gonna do here is just simple, like let's take these, let's take the content here, shift that over to the right, and then add a nice image here on the left, and then same for this. Let's shift this to the left and then add a nice image on the right. All right, so let's just screenshot these 2 sections, drop them into Claude. For the following 2 sections, currently we have these as centered blocks of text and features. What I would like to do is turn these sections into 2 columns where the content goes to the right on the first column, and then the section just below that, shift the content to the left and then add an image placeholder to the right. Remember, you're just conducting AI to do the heavy lifting for you, so let's see what it cooks up. All right, so you can see here, now we've got this broken up into 2 columns. We've got an image placeholder here, image placeholder here, and I feel like it's looking much better. All right, let's move on to the next section. All right, so now we have the base template and the design of all of the sections rock and rolling. What we need to do is go ahead and add all of our images. Now, adding images into the code is really straightforward. We can just drop the images into Claude Code, that's fine. But when we're gonna go and export it to GHL, GHL needs all of the images hosted as image URLs. All right, so the way that I'm gonna do the images, so I could technically just go in and drop all of the images in one by one, but all of my images now live inside of my documents that Claude has access to. So you can see I've got compressed images over here. I've got all of the different cutouts for the hero section, but I'm gonna just go section by section so I can control ultimately what images go where. All right, so the way that I'm gonna do that is I'm just gonna copy the path for the compressed images so they're tinyfied. All right, and I'm just gonna go over here, copy that path, and I'll say to Claude, all right, so can we go in and add images to the landing page 1 section at a time? So the first I want you to do is the hero section. The images I'm gonna give you are the different cutouts that we want laid out around the hero section. So can you please treat this accordingly? And we'll go down section by section. Here are the images. Okay, and let's cook. All right, so you can see here it's actually looking at the various images, and hopefully this will pull through and it won't be too much trouble. Immediately here I can see that there's an issue with this image. This might not be a PNG, which will be a problem, but we can tweak that once we see what's going on. Honestly, if this does a good job first time, I'm going to crap myself. I hope it does, but let's see. All right, my friends, so all of the images on this landing page right now are currently hosted on our local file, and we need to get these over onto GHL so GHL can pick these up. And when we move the site over to GHL, we're not going to lose our nice images, all right? Because the way GHL works is that all images need to be hosted inside the GHL media storage. So what I actually did with Claude Code was I basically said, can you take all of the images we used, which are saved locally in the project file we're working on, can you take all of the images, lay them out specifically like this with the names, and then drop them into a folder for me so I can just batch upload into GHL, and then I'm going to send those links back to Claude and it will update everything inside of the code before we move things over to GHL. This is very important. Image uploading is quite annoying with this, I'm not going to lie, but this is the best way that I've found to ultimately get around this issue, right? I actually just get Claude to put all of them in a GHL upload file like this, so you can see all of our images are here labeled correctly, so GHL will know exactly what is actually what. All right, so I'm gonna go do that now. All right, so you can see I'm inside of Danielle's boss account, aka GHL, and you can see here I've got media storage. I'm just gonna go to upload, GHL upload, and just drop all of them in one big batch. And then once these are uploaded, I will take the URLs by clicking the three dots here, get link, and I will give those back to Claude, which will be able to cross-reference and update all of the code for the sales page, and we should be good to go. So you've just got to go and you've got to cross-reference, all right? So image 1 equals, and then just paste your link, all right? So it takes a little bit of work, but ultimately this is how we got to get the images done. So I have taken the table that Claude gave me and I've cross-referenced, uploaded all of the images to GHL's media library. Now, it's a bit of a painstaking process, I'm not gonna lie. If anyone has a better way to work this around and make this a lot smoother, I'm all ears. But ultimately, we've done it now, let's crack on. So we have gone through the entire page. We've added images, we've added some nice counting effects, we've added some cool treatments to the backgrounds and everything. And so you can see what the page is looking like here. The outcome that we have right now is something that I'm really happy with and proud of. And I think, you know, we're in a good place to take this to Danny and see what she thinks. So, you know, we still have a few image placeholders to drop in here. She needs to send those to me, you know, for the testimonials and everything. But we've got, you know, these animated counters, and we've got the entire page, you know, looking really nice with subtle little animations, nice images. This is also a really nice effect, which I think is going to just look fantastic. But the real juice of this whole thing came in, you know, my own taste to be able to push the design further than it did initially. Because the first sales page it came up with was, yeah, it was okay, could have passed off on it. But if you really are trying to go for something premium here, you know, and usually this is when you're actually getting paid thousands of dollars to create sales funnels like this, it's worth putting in the extra time just to make sure, you know, things are working out. Now, the reason this method and this workflow is beneficial is because if you've used GoHighLevel before, you know how terrible the templates are. And so this is a unique template, you know, this is custom built using Danielle's own brand guidelines. So no one else has a sales page that looks like this. And you know, so that's what people are ultimately going to pay you a lot of money for. They're not going to pay you for a stock standard crappy sales page. So this whole build of the sales funnel has taken me a few hours, but ultimately we now have a template. We now have the custom code that can be put into GHL and ultimately have a happy customer. Because at the end of the day, if you want to have a successful business in this, you need to, you know, you need to go the extra mile. But typically this would have taken a week, if not longer, to do manually. And I'll be perfectly honest, like there's times where I like designing and pixel pushing, right? I can put my music in, I can just listen to stuff. What I've noticed in designing through vibe coding methods is that, you know, I can't listen to music anymore, all right, because I'm speaking and I'm prompting through using whisper flow. And I also don't like how long it takes between generations. So back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that is a little bit laborious. But at the same time, you know, if you're managing a team of people, that's exactly what you have to do anyway. So, you know, that's just a little insight into it. But I think we've just got a banger. I think this is looking fantastic. And now that we've got the showpiece done, we're going to get the webinar registration page done. We're going to get the opt-in page done, and then we're going to move over into transferring this over to GHL, which really is the moment of truth, because we want to make sure this code is being referenced and put into GHL in the best way possible. So let's go do that. So we've just gone out and we built the opt-in page and the webinar registration page, which you can see here. So we have 3 pages locked and loaded. The 2 remaining pages, because they were shorter pages, took a lot quicker to design because we already had the design system locked in place from doing the sales page first. So if you are designing a funnel like this, I recommend you start with the biggest page first. Then the rest of the pages are just much quicker and much easier. So we've gone through the exact same process. We started each page in a new chat, and Claude, knowing the Claude.md battle plan file, was able to create a new folder within the project folder. And now we have all of our HTML code broken up into different sections that we can now easily drop into GHL. And the good thing about this is, because we've done so much work on ultimately preparing the code in the best way possible, the GHL upload process is gonna feel like magic. All right, so we're gonna drop these in now section by section, and we're gonna have a production ready sales funnel done and dusted. Here we are inside of Danielle's GoHighLevel account. This is inside Boss, our white label, which again, you get when you join us on Premium inside of school. But without further ado, you can see how I've laid out my funnel here. We've got the various steps of our funnel. We got the lead magnet opt-in page, which we've designed. We've got the webinar registration page, which we've designed, and we've got the sales page, which we've already designed. Now what we need to do is just prepare and make sure we've got the various sections of our code. So this is the project that we've been designing inside of Claude Code. And you can see here, we've got our 3 main pages. All right, so we've got our opt-in page, we've got our sales page, which has more sections, and we've got our thank you page as well, right? So we're gonna do the sales page first, and you can see it's already broken this up into sections for us, all right? So all I'm gonna do is go create from blank for the lead magnet. This is gonna boot up for us. Once we're inside the page, you wanna prepare the page to take the custom code blocks, right? So typically what I'll do is I'll drop in a couple of sections, and in those sections, I will add my custom code blocks, and then just make sure on the green one, you're just going allow rows to take the full width. Now, specifically for my opt-in page, I can see that I've got 3 main sections. So I'm gonna wanna go ahead and just duplicate this 3 times, all right? So I've got 3 blocks that I can then go in and paste the custom code into. Now, what GHL does is it adds padding around the different sections, which you've just got to go out and nullify, reduce that all to 0 so we can take the code in and we can get as close to just copying and pasting in, and we're going to be in a good position, right? So if I just look here, all of the padding is gone. Still some padding over there. Let's nuke it. All right, and now all I do is go here, General, Open Editor, get my custom code. So this is the hero section for the opt-in page, and I just go drag and drop Bob's your uncle, just like magic, all right? And so I'll just repeat that now for each section in this page, and I'm gonna be in a good position. But like, you know, this is how close we want this to be to a one-shot. You know, we do all of the heavy lifting in Claude Code, and when we come over into GHL, it should just work, all right? Now, obviously there are times where you just have to troubleshoot, in which case you just go back to Claude Code and let it guide you through this process. All right, so opt-in page looking good. Let's now move on to the next step of the funnel, webinar registration page. So I'm just gonna repeat the exact same process over again. All right, so you can see here that there's a bunch more sections, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and those are all in order, right? So I'm gonna need 9 of these bad boys. 2, 3, 4, 9, and I'm going to start at the top and just drop them in. All right, guys, so look, that is looking banging. Everything has come through pixel perfect, and I'm really, really happy with that. All of the images are linking, so let's save that. So now for the sales page, and you can see here in the project, we've got a bunch of sections. We've got hero, problem, agitation, all of this all the way down to section 14. So I've just matched that here for my sections, and now again, it's copy and paste time. So you can see that we now have the entire sales page loaded into GHL, exactly what it looked like inside Claude Code. So what that means is Claude understood the assignment. All right, so just quick preview, you know, you can see the animations are working. That's GHL, baby. Beautiful. Animations look really nice. The little counter is also working, which I was worried about. But guys, tell me this doesn't look like a flippin' GHL template, baby. That's custom coding, vibe coding your sales page, vibe coding your funnel. This is the future. This is the future. All right. Took a bit of work up front to get it done in Claude Code, but ultimately, now what we can do is just go into GHL, launch this bad boy, and then we can have our full suite of statistics. We've got pages, we can make changes, and ultimately we can see how many page views we have, how many opt-ins, etc., etc. This entire process depends on your ability to create beautiful offers, know who you're speaking to, and ultimately have a place for people to find you. And so if you want to learn how to create all of these assets, how to get into vibe coding, how to create beautiful vibe coded funnels and websites for your clients or for yourself, so you can save time and move into this new era with safety and surety and confidence that you're not being left behind, right? Because this is a beautiful time to be alive. You can do crazy things. You can sell incredibly high value productions like this one, like I've just shown you, that ultimately to someone who is a wellness coach or a fitness coach, they have no idea how to do this stuff. And if you can bring that to them, you can charge a huge amount for what you're doing. But you need to learn the skills of how to market yourself and how to sell. And that's what we're teaching inside of our school community. So jump inside, my friend. I'll see you in there. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.